This is Lunch with a Supe, November, and today we're going to highlight the Career and Technical Education Center, the one that EBR has been planning for many years, and it's a collaboration effort with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, with the foundation, with a different group of people who all over Baton Rouge. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what the Career and Technical Education Center will be, but I've also invited John Spain, head of the EBR, the Baton Rouge Foundation, Matt McKay with All-Star Automotive Group, and of course Summer DANN, who's now Executive Director of the EBR CTEC. Really exciting stuff. This is going to be the first school of its kind in Baton Rouge where we send kids from high schools to work a half a day, either morning or afternoon, and they will earn dual enrollment. And they'll also earn a trade or learn a trade where they can go into the workforce after high school if they don't choose to go to college, but they could also go to college.
What kind of benefits is this going to have?
Well, we're in a corridor that needs labor, and so the Exxons and the Dows and the corridor that we serve here in Baton Rouge from really St. Francisville to New Orleans needs those laborers, and they need technically skilled students. That's what we're going to be providing. The Baton Rouge Area Chamber did a survey on the high-need, high-wage jobs, and that's what this is going to provide. And it'll be a half-a-day program for students coming from high schools, either morning or afternoon. But we're going to provide those high-skilled, high-wage jobs where students can go directly into the workforce after high school.
We have a great topic today. We do our best to work with Warren to come up with things that we think would be of interest. But more importantly, talk about things we think are moving our community forward. And this is, without question, one of the key things. You know, as I was preparing for this, I was thinking about my life growing up. I'm not from here. I'm from West Virginia, moved here a couple decades ago, and preparing myself for life. And, you know, my family did not grow up college education, which a lot of our families didn't grow up that way if you're my generation. My dad worked in a factory and had a great job and worked there for a long time, manufacturing nickel. But there was a time, I think, in our past, there is a time, which we're still here to a large degree, where it was presented that if you didn't proceed out of your high school career, your high school education, and move to college, that you weren't succeeding. And that is, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I went to college. I have one kid in college and one probably headed that way. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But what we need to be focused on is not where you go, but what are you preparing yourself for? And just as important is what you're preparing yourself for, something that can lead you to a life, can provide you employment, can help you take care of yourself and your family going forward. And what we're talking about today, I think, is a key component of that. Because if there's anything we do as a community, it's to make sure that our kids, all of our kids, are prepared for the workforce when they exit. Because if they're not ready and they're not prepared, then we're setting not only them up for failure, but we're setting our community up for failure. Because we've got to have a good workforce. And that is everything from technical, which we'll talk about today, to college. They're all important, but it's important that we make sure they're prepared. But to do that, we've got to help show them what's necessary. And I think today we're going to talk to some folks who are doing that very thing and highlight some really impressive things that are happening in our community.
Today we're going to talk about the East Baton Rouge Career and Technical Education Center. And I wish this would have been my idea, but I have to tell the truth, it was not my idea. This idea came about at least 10 years ago, and John Spain's going to talk about that in a few minutes. But I will tell you, the school board we have here, along with the businesses in Baton Rouge, Evelyn Ware Jackson, I don't see her, and this is sort of in her area there in Mid-City, but all of these people had a vision for doing something that's going to help our children, our young people, get jobs right out of high school and earn dual enrollment at the same time. So it's just a great project. Well, about 2 years ago, I went to Newnan, Georgia to see the Career and Technical Education Center in Newnan, Georgia. And we landed at the Newnan airport and we went to see it, and it was all great, and then we flew back. And then about a year ago, my son calls me and says, my wife and I, and says, I'm getting married, Dad. And I said, well, that's great. Where's she from? Newnan, Georgia. And I went, are you kidding me? So she's actually from Fayetteville, right next door. So 1 month ago, Adam got married. We all stayed in Noonan, Georgia. And I said, you know, this is like deja vu all over again, you know. But the school over there is a model for training young people, giving them dual enrollment, and preparing them for the future, whether it be college or career in technical education. So I want to thank our friends here. I want to thank the foundation, our staff that's here today. We have quite a number of staff here today, our school board members too. And after I say a few words, I'm going to have John Spain come up and talk a little bit. What's unique about this facility, it's being built right now on Lobdell Boulevard, right next to the McKay Automotive Center. They are putting, that automotive center is high-tech. Right next door is going to be the collision center. Right next door to that is going to be our career and technical education center that's going to be built to expand. Right now we'll have about 150 kids in the morning, about 150 kids in the afternoon. They will be coming from our high schools. And as you learned earlier, Summer Dan, who's walking right here, is our new executive director. And she's going to come up and give you all the details. But as you walk into that facility, this 21st century facility, you're going to have these standards that are outside, and they're going to have on those standards the words determined, skills, professional, successful, where every day when those kids walk in, those young people walk in, they're going to be able to see that. 4 large bays will be there, 6 classrooms, training lab. It's going to have a cafeteria and a coffee bar, sort of like, so we want kids to be comfortable when they're in learning environments. So that's part of it as well. As I mentioned earlier, they're going to be able to earn dual enrollment, but also industry-based certification, IBCs. The state of Louisiana has changed the way we do business in schools in that after the 10th grade year, students choose a pathway for a college pathway or a pathway for career and technical education. That does not mean they can't go to college if they pick, though, the career and tech pathway. They can still go to college. But nowadays, after the 10th grade year, they pick one of those. And so these next 2 years, we are going to be training those kids, not only in our regular high schools, but this is going to be the first of its kind modeled after the Career and Technical Education Center in Noonan. Now, I will say this also. Adam Knapp is not here, but Liz is here. Where's Liz? Raise your hand. Liz, right here. And Liz and the group from the Baton Rouge Chamber have been working with us over a period of years to develop a curriculum, to help select an executive director. It's truly a private partnership with a private public, and John's going to talk about that a little bit more later. STEM and computer sciences, skilled crafts, manufacturing, logistics, medical services are all going to be there. And it's just going to be an exciting time, and we are going to get this thing open in August. We wanted to get Miss DANN on very early because she's working with business and industry to put the types of equipment we need in there to make this a first-class facility and building community and business partnerships. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to invite John Spain up, my good friend for a long time, to talk about the vision and how this all started. Again, I'm jealous that it wasn't my idea, but John, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Thank you for having me, Ward. He's been to Noonan twice. I've been to Noonan 7 or 8 times. 2 ideas came together over a decade ago. Almost 12 years ago, we started looking at what was happening in EBR's high schools. And what we saw in that 8th grade LEAP test is when people did not do well, they dropped out of high school. And we did not give them a choice. They woke up the next day and said, it's 3 more years of failure for me and I'm going to drop out. And we started looking at different ideas. At the same time, we started looking at what we now know as Ardendale. And the Redevelopment Authority was in the process of acquiring that land. And that simple idea was that education was the pathway out of poverty. And could we build, with our partners, a very unique community on that 200 acres that would provide educational opportunities, homes for people to live, and businesses and jobs where they could work, and use that as a model community to change the pathway out of poverty. And those 2 ideas came together in some very strange ways. Steve Hicks is a local businessman some of you know. He approached Matt and I 12 years ago and said, you have to go to Noonan, Georgia. How many of y'all have ever heard of Noonan, Georgia before today? You all have been to Noonan, Georgia with me. We said, why Noonan, Georgia? And here was the story they told. Noonan is a small community outside of Atlanta, and not unlike a lot of communities across the country, when people graduate from high school, they leave, and they never come back. And at the same time, there are jobs unfilled in Noonan. And they did something that sounded so easy, but is not. And they said, we're going to change our educational programs to train for jobs that exist in Noonan. And if there aren't jobs in Noonan, we're going to change the curriculum. And they had the backbone to be able to do that. So they talk about in May, young people cross the stage and get a high school diploma on a Thursday. On Friday, if they've worked hard, they come back with their parents and they get an associate degree. And most important is on Monday, every one of them goes to work, because every curriculum in that school is aimed at a job that they know exists in Noonan. And Steve Hicks said, you got to go to Noonan. And we did. Charlotte Placide was the superintendent at the time. I tried to count how many superintendents I've taken. I think it's 5 now. And we ultimately took a majority of the school board to Noonan back then. And we showed them this unique idea that was a partnership between a high school and the community college. And we had both college kids and high school kids on the same curriculum. And they had any number of different courses, everything from welding to computer science to television. And on about the 3rd or 4th visit, we came back and there were things about this tall sitting on a table, and we said, what are those? And they said, they're robots. They're miniature robots. And I said, tell me what that's about. And it was the best example of their ability to be flexible. They said, automobile manufacturing has now come to Georgia. We don't need as many welders because robots do the welding. What we need are people who can replace and fix broken robots. And that's the story of Noonan. They've been flexible. They've been willing to change. They've been willing to adapt. So when you walk through their halls, you're going to see a lot of what you're going to see here. Our idea was to say, in the old days, if we sent you to an old vo-tech school, it was kind of a crummy looking building, and there was a stigma attached to that. And we said, what we want to do in Baton Rouge is have the most modern, most beautiful campus that people will be proud and others would be envious to be able to go. That's what we built right here. We wanted to keep all pathways open, which is what the superintendent talked about. In the old days, we'd send you on a vo-tech, we'd close some doors. Out of this building becomes a high school diploma, a certificate of competency from the state of Louisiana. If you work hard, an associate degree, and that degree is transferable to any university. Think about the dollars parents, particularly those living in poverty, have saved in having 2 years of college credit coming out of this facility. That's all possible. That's the dream. Voters in East Baton Rouge Parish paid for this starting in 2008. 2008, this was approved. We had to fix Baton Rouge High. We had to build Lehigh because it's kind of pay as you go. This is the last piece of that project. It is unique. Nothing in the state looks quite like this. And I'm very, very pleased to know that we've hired the right lady to run it. She has unique capabilities in being able to bring not only educators into this facility, but trained professionals that can be the expertise that we need to train some of the skill sets that are here. So that's the story of Noonan. I'm happy to tell you that we took summer last month, and Larissa, who's the new chancellor of BRCC, so both sides of this have now been to Noonan, and we're to the place now where I think I've gone the last time. I think that people from Noonan and other places are going to come to Baton Rouge. And if they do, we'll be very proud to say we learned from a lot of other people, but we have the best of its kind in Baton Rouge. This is the best of a private-public partnership where the city, the redevelopment authority, the school board, the chamber, BRAF, for over 10 years have worked on a dream to change young people's lives. And we're about to do it, and I'm extraordinarily excited about it. And I'm proud for the leadership of the school board and the superintendent and the board members who have seen the dream that was passed in '08 by their predecessors on the board and are still here making it happen. Matt McKay has been on, I guess, every trip. Come on up, Matt, and you can tell about how this fits in not only to the Ardendale, but to the McKay Automotive Center, which is right next door, and a little bit about what you've seen when you've been in Noonan all these times.
Good afternoon. It has been a journey, but one that's well worth it, and the upside is unbelievably exciting. I grew up in the public school system. My dad was a teacher, coach, and principal. He retired from Westdale Junior High. He started at Melrose Elementary School. And I'll never forget, I was on the chamber, and a lady walked in, and she was running for office, and she said, McKay. She said, is Coach McKay your dad? I said, yes, ma'am. So my dad taught Barbara Freiberg. So a lot of things through the years, you realize how much impact teachers and principals and all have on your community. My mother retired from the school board. She worked there for Dr. Hoover. And then my stepmother was 30 years in the school system. My brother was wife with a teacher. So I grew up in that environment. And it was a great environment. But anyway, this whole thing about technology, I've been in the car business for 30-something years now, and I can tell you now today I can't find a part in the warehouse. I wouldn't know how to open up the hood. I couldn't tell you what's in there, but I know it's a vital part of my business. And what we did, we would hire and sponsor kids to go to UTI, which is a public school, a public company in Houston, Texas. And it was like $25,000 admission. And we had a room over there, and we went through that process for about 3 years. And when I sat back and looked at the investment and their success, it was like a 30% retention rate that we kept. So I said, we need to look and see what we were doing wrong. If we really want to do anything wrong, they just want to go back home. They just want to go back home. So that's kind of what started, what can we do to eliminate those kind of situations? And fortunately, I served a couple of terms with Mr. Spain and Mr. Davies and the group at the Baton Rouge Area Foundation. And we sat there and looked at what jobs would be available. This was 10, 11 years ago, and obviously automotive training and technology was a piece of that. So that's where we went. But it's been a real experience through the years, and I think it's a great career for young people. Not all people are college, quote, college materials. I'll never forget, John, who was he was at LSU as the chancellor, and he's in Colorado now.
Martin?
Yeah, Mike Martin. So I was at dinner with about 10 couples one night, and we pulled over on the side and started having a conversation, and I guess I can be, frank. And I said, Mike, I said, y'all are doing a disservice to these kids. He said, what do you mean? I said, you have a general studies degree, okay? And these kids go to school, borrow a lot of money, have college debt coming out of there, and they come out with a college degree. That's great. You see them working in the malls at night, minimum wage and a commission, and all that student debt. So that really rang a bell in the thought process of what we have. So it's a beautiful campus. The other thing I like about it, I think we have a lot of challenges in our community today. Warren joked about growing up in Melrose. Carrie, a bunch of us were in Melrose, and that area needs to come back, and it is coming back. And so I think this is a way of growing and developing that area of town. The redevelopment authority, they have the property, so many hands pulling in the same direction make for light work. So thank you. I didn't want to follow Mr. Spain, and I didn't want to go in front of him either. So, but anyway, I'm stuck. One other thing I want to say about John Spain, he and I have become dear friends, one of the most talented people I have ever worked with in my life. So he's taught me a lot along the way. So thank y'all.
Thank you for having me. My name is Summer DANN. I'm the Executive Director of CTEC. My background, I like to give my background so most people know where I've come from, and you know that I can lead this program, and I'm excited about it. So my undergraduate and graduate degrees are in mechanical engineering from LSU. I worked for almost 10 years as a mechanical engineer. I went through a divorce. I was in Houston, and I moved back here and got into LSU, and I was at a research facility. And there I started developing programs for Girl Scouts for science and engineering to get them involved, and that just moved me into the College of Engineering for a retention program. And then I became associate dean over at ITI Technical College. So I was over the electrical department, instrumentation, P-Tech, and HVAC. So I've been both in the STEM area of working and also in the STEM areas of education. One of the things that you need to know is what happens at Noonan, Georgia, is that the students spend part of their times at homeschool and then part of their times at the Career and Tech Education Center. So that would happen here in EBR as well. So if a student is at Broadmoor High School, they would be there in the morning, and then they could come to CTEC for their specialized classes. We talked about being flexible and responsive. We have an advisory committee of industry people, and we've already had a large meeting about a week and a half ago. We had 55 industry and business people come and give us some feedback, and so we'll probably meet again in January. And there's the building. We kind of talked about the building, and Mr. Marcus Williams over here is helping with that. Okay. Can y'all see that with the? Okay. So basically, what CTEC is going to do, and the plant's there, is to address some critical needs in the workforce. So what I wanted to start with is the critical needs nationwide, and what we're seeing here, and this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that the projections from 2016 to 2026. One of the top ones on there is a solar installer. That's interesting. Home health aides, medical assistants, operators, phlebotomists. Thank you very much. Okay, and respiratory therapists. As you see, there's a need nationwide for some careers. Well, some of these careers are also here in Baton Rouge. So these numbers come from BRAC, and you're seeing what the expected job growth is here in this region. We have professional and business services. That includes IT. We have healthcare, construction, and manufacturing. Put that there. Those are the ones that CTEC is going to focus on for the foreseeable future. So we kind of said high demand, high wage. The other goal for CTEC is to retain students in high school. One of the things that I don't think you stated from Noonan, Georgia, is they had a 15 to 20% increase in their retention numbers having these kids in a career or tech education. And then finally, it'll provide work-based learning opportunities. What are work-based learning opportunities? Well, these are internships and apprenticeships. This is where the students would learn hands-on their craft or their trade. Can you see those? Okay, so these are the 4 buckets is what we're calling them for CTEC. We have computer science, which would have cyber engineering, information technology. Students are going to learn how to program. They're going to learn how to do networking in those types of areas. Then we have the skilled crafts, and that's kind of dark, but that's HVAC, electrician, carpenter, things of that nature. We have a medical component, which is EMT, the certified nursing assistants, and then there's a general health sciences. And finally, we have manufacturing, which would have operations, instrumentation, automotive, and the manufacturing specialists. Finally, one of the big things that business and industry tell us is even if these kids have these types of skills, they don't know how to get the jobs, they don't know how to interview, they don't understand that they need to show up on time, be there the full time. And so another class that we're going to offer is a professionalism. It's going to talk about attitude and attendance and work ethic. Okay. I think I'm going to skip over the internships. There is another model for internships through Denver, and they started 3 years ago. They have over 2,400 students in their internship program. Okay, so we're going to try to map business needs, community needs, to student needs. Well, students that are in the 9th grade don't really have an understanding of what they could be doing for a future career. So what we did was we did a survey, and we basically gave them information about all the careers we could host at CTEC and give us your feedback on that. So the students, the number one career that they're interested in, either the CNA, the LPN, it was the medical career. 465 students out of all of these high schools said they were interested in medical. The second largest one is computer and technology. Then we had construction crafts and manufacturing. That gives us an idea of where we need to start and where we need to recruit students from, and also a way of educating them on the possible careers that they have. Okay, so the other thing we have to do is that we have to ramp up these students. If the vision is to be able to offer higher end classes that they would have associate's degrees by the time they graduate as well, well, we're going to have to do some modifications in the 9th and 10th grade and ramp those students up. We won't be able to do that by next year. So the thought process is to have a boot camp. It's called a CTEC boot camp, and we will get those students in either the 10th grade or maybe even juniors that are going to senior year and ramp them up, meaning we'll get them their first industry-based credential for whatever career they want, give them the professional skills, and see if we can't get them on track at least to have the first year of their associate's degree, maybe not graduating with associate's degree, but have that first initial step into there. And so these are some of the things we kind of talked about, having the DISC and conflict resolution and some leadership skills as well in that boot camp. Okay. So how are we going to measure if CTEC is successful? The scores and the things that the schools use, all of those scores are going to go back to their home schools. So CTEC won't have that. So we have to have a different metric of success. What we're going to have is we're going to provide these industry-based certifications for these students. We'll measure how many of them take the test, how many of them are passing the test, the number of successful internships, meaning they've completed this, the industry people have said, yes, this is good, the number of jobs they get from those internships, the number of dual enrolled students that we can have, and then obviously the retention of the students from year to year in CTEC would be a metric. Why is that important? Well, this is important for anybody that has to get a grant. If we have to get funding from industry, any of those things, we will have those metrics to show if your student comes here, if they graduate, they can have a position or a job. All right, so let me show you. This is the intersection of needs for what we're going to be able to host starting in August. We need to have internships for students available. We need to have equipment and donations, and we need to have instructors. Instructors is going to be difficult because what we want is to hire people that were technicians or people that were in the trades and train them on more of the educational side. They're going to have all the background and the skills to teach these kids. Those people are out making 60, 70, 80, over $100,000 a year. So my thought process there for getting those guys is to find people that are retired or people that are like me that wanted to make a career change. So I've already talked to some of them. Equipment and donations, so the fundraising part, I've had lots of support from business and industry and people that want to donate equipment. So that's looking like that's going really well. The internships, we have some liability issues and things that need to be worked out before businesses and industry are fully on board, but it's been very supportive for that as well. So there we go. All right, and this is my contact information. We have a Facebook page, we have a blog. You guys will probably be on the blog. I do want to say that we hired our director about a week ago. Her name is Daphne Alex, and she's from Broadmoor. She was the assistant principal. And so we've been joking around saying this isn't your daddy's VOTEC, this is going to be your mama's. So.
How is this different from the traditional programs that have been offered in the past?
Well, in the past, this is the first year for the career diploma, the new career diploma, where students choose a pathway after their 10th grade year. And so after this year, students will choose a pathway, either the career and technical pathway or the college pathway. So this is the first year of that. So we're really meeting a need of something, and this vision didn't happen yesterday. I was not here when the vision came up. So I want to thank the people of East Baton Rouge Parish School Board who had this vision, along with Matt McKay, along with John Spain, Adam Knapp, and our school board, really. Evelyn Ware Jackson, our board president, is one of them. It's in her area. And so she's had this vision for a long time as well. So those people really said we have a need for developing skilled labor for our students in high schools that can go directly into the workforce.
Your reaction to what you've seen and heard here today?
Well, I think that, number one, this program is unique. We've actually visited Noonan, Georgia. There is a career and technical education center in Noonan, Georgia, and we've modeled it after that. And we've also got it where it can grow. It's going to be 150 students in the morning, 150 students in the afternoon. It's for East Baton Rouge Parish School System students. Woodlawn on one end of the parish and Northeast on the other end of the parish are probably not going to participate, but they have programs at their schools that will do the same type of things. And we're providing these types of services in traditional high schools as well, but not to the degree that we have at this Career and Technical Education Center.
Are you encouraged by the potential that this offers?
Absolutely. We cannot wait for it to open. We've hired a new executive director. We just hired a new director. So they're out beating the pavement and looking for partnerships in the business community. So businesses out there, if you're out there and you want to partner with the East Baton Rouge Parish Career and Technical Education Center, we're going to have all sorts of different programs that will benefit you out in the industries along the river.
If people have questions like more information, what should they do?
Well, they could go to our website, ebrschools.org, or they can call us at 225-922-5400. Look forward to hearing from them.